How you doing, guys?
We're good.
Much better.
You good.
I'm joining you. Cheers.
Yeah. Good morning, gentlemen. All
Simon,
right.
I finally
So
get to
we
meet
got
you.
I know it's been a long time in the making. I'm sorry.
No
Yeah.
apologies required, man. If I take life that personal, I need to reset.
Where are you based?
San Francisco
Oh,
area.
really? Couldn't you find a good city to live
You
in?
forgot.
No, man. If my kids wouldn't have followed and had two grandkids, I'd be out of here. It's a great place to visit.
Where would you live if your kids didn't live in the Bay Area?
If I didn't
If
go
you had a
back to
choice.
if I didn't go back to the Midwest, I'd probably go to the Carolinas. We like that a lot.
Oh yeah, that's a great place. That's a great place. So, Jacob, while we've got you here, tell us a little bit about yourself. Be careful. Some people take this as an opportunity to talk for 15 minutes. So, as concise as you can.
Right.
Who are you? What do you do right now? And then we'll jump in on the rest of the talk.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. My title is a coach. Become master level when you're in it long enough and you have enough hours. They call you that, but it's all irrelevant. Depends on what you do. But I coach entrepreneurs that usually come in with some success and are really looking to take it to that next level, which is high 6 figures to 7 figure businesses. And just work on systems, processes, and make sure that they're profitable, and then help them get out of the way so that they can, do as much as they choose to do, and more importantly, get some time back.
That's awesome. A lot of people, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, are tired of seeing all the coaches on LinkedIn, promising unicorns and rainbows, promising gold at the end of the tunnel. But for you, you're a little bit different. You're a little bit more about results. You've been there before yourself. It's rare that we meet a coach who practice what they preach, either previously, currently. Most coaches that I see on LinkedIn probably live in their mom's basement and, go to Starbucks coffee to act like they're really cool. But, and I've worked with a couple, they're blocked, so they're never going to see that. And they are nothing, like they say, online in real life. In fact, they are broker than a joke. They're just terrible. But for you, you're genuine, real, and all about skin in the game. And I know you've got a great backstory. Because you've been there and you kind of lost it, and then you're on your way back. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey you've taken, if you don't mind?
Yeah, not at all. There are a lot of, I don't like to use that word because everybody's using it, but people that are saying they're one thing, but they're really not. And I used to go that route too when I thought that was the way that you made success. But I think you learn along the way, and age is a benefit, at least in a few points at least, to let you know that all you have to do is really be yourself. But I think that if you're not in it, you really have to work with a lot of people that are, to show up and help the people at the level that I help with. I think you can help a beginner without a lot of experience, but to help people with experience to really go to that next level, you have to be in it. And my success was meteoric. My first business did 7 figures in the first 10 months, which was my first fiscal year. And part of it was because I had an idea, I had a plan, I got a vision for it without knowing the intricacies of all of that stuff. I was just kind of going into it blindly, but stubbornly. And I created a 6-figure business, and it was painful. I wasn't a good manager in the beginning. I had to learn how to manage other people. I had to learn how to manage projects, and I was really good at managing myself, but I was terrible as a manager the first year. I lost a lot of good people, and so you learn along the way if you're stubborn enough to stay in it. And I've also had I've had 2 massive successful businesses, but I've also had 3 massive flops, and totally, like you said, lost everything in 2009, and had to come to grips with on my 50th birthday, losing everything in bankruptcy court. So it's been a journey, but I can tell you that people can take away your stuff, but they can't take away your will or your experience, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about successful people, because most coaches work with the lower end of the scale, meaning new people to start a business or wanting to start a side hustle. You're way beyond that. You're working with people who already have an established business, and for whatever reason, they're not hitting the goals they want. Whether it's more freedom or more money or both, or just explode and scale even rapidly. What are some common things that you've noticed that hold people back from going from 6 figures to another income bracket?
It depends on the person, but it could be something external that's really impacted them, like a divorce or something emotional that kind of sets them back. It's like it's really easy when you're winning to be confident, like we see in boxers or fighters, and one loss can take them out of the game, so sometimes it's just an emotional hit that they've taken, and it's really about resetting their belief systems and reminding them of what they're really capable of and the value they bring. But a lot of it's time. We work ourselves into this frenzy to create success, and we forget to delegate it out to other people, because nobody can do it better than us, right? So it's about time freedom, understanding that, and then learning how to really manage teams and other people properly, or reminding the leaders that, hey, look, the only way you're going to get to plan B, in your business is by letting go of you being in the day-to-day stuff of everything. My goal is to take you from 100% of what you're doing down to about 30%.
And I consider Simon in a lot of ways one of my mentors. Even though we have a working relationship, I really look up to the way he does business, and you as well, Jacob. And Simon, my question to you is, where do you get all this energy to plow through all these obstacles that you have in your business right now? For those of you who don't know, Simon owns 5 transportation companies, and he thrived during the middle of COVID. And part of the dark side of his thriving is that we were just talking about this before you hopped on the call, Jacob. That the government has bailed out a lot of hospitality people, unemployment benefit, the stimulus check. So now they don't want to go back to work. So while business is booming, there's a shortage of drivers or hospitality people for the airlines even. So you might not know people out there that Simon moonlights as a shuttle driver to make his company go. And that's something I really admire, because I doubt his direct competitor would do that himself, So Simon, where are you getting this drive, this energy? Because I've never seen you say, Doug, I've had enough. I'm gonna take a week off and forget about all that. I have yet to hear you say that. I know you took a trip to Brazil for work, but you didn't really take an actual break for yourself. So tell me a little bit about that. Where's this coming from that Jacob mentioned?
Well, I think, Doug, I was listening to Jacob talk and thinking, man, I think I need to hire him tomorrow, because all of the challenges that Jacob outlined are the challenges that we face. And I think Jacob probably can relate to this. when you work for yourself and your name's on the door, you don't need that motivation to get up in the morning, because, and we've got a lot of moving parts to our business, and our business is no more important than anybody else. I've got one of my best friends here in Colorado. He owns a restaurant, and he's got 18 staff, and he launched it during COVID, but he's got all those challenges that where he's working 7 days a week. And, I went to Brazil for work, and I was there for 3 days, and I didn't really leave the hotel that I was in. And the housekeeper, that comes to knock on the door to clean your room, I think she thought I died because I slept for 2.5 days. I don't think I'd slept that much, in the last 5 years. And so I relate to what Jacob, says. And I think that's it. I don't know where the motivation comes from. I think it's just when your name's on the door, that you keep finding a way. And I think entrepreneurs get addicted like a drug. It's like a drug. You get addicted to the workload. And there's no 2 days are the same. I mean, yesterday we had a terrible day. Okay. The shit hit the fan. Operationally, we failed. Everyone was screaming at each other, and I was thinking, shit, listening to Jacob saying, I'm not managing people very well. And I do regard myself as a good leader of people. I mean, I've had a lot of experience at it. And I think if you took a poll or a survey of all of our staff this afternoon, you would say, yeah, he's a little crazy, but he treats us fairly, and we feel part of the team. And I think that takes a while to, a few gray hairs, as Jacob said, to learn that. And I have to manage people that are older than me, thankfully. And there are people that are a lot younger than me. Right. And so, but I think where corporate America is witnessing something that it's never witnessed before. There's no playbook for what we're going through as a country, because the wealthy through the pandemic got a lot wealthier, and the blue collar and a lot of businesses that were impacted by COVID are never going to recover. Okay, travel will never be the same ever again, whether you like it or not. Okay, and so you've got this huge chasm of differences now, and so we've got a labor issue that no one knows how to solve. We can't get people back to work. Hospitality, travel, transportation, the TSA is struggling to get people to come back to work. Well, that's the linchpin of getting people through an airport, if we don't have enough TSA people. And so American Airlines, Doug, we were talking about, they've had to cancel thousands of flights because they can't physically get people to actually work them. Airports, if you think of the cascade of problems that we've got. Now, will we solve it eventually? I hope so. But that it's like the things that are keeping me awake at night are, we may reinvent our whole business based on what's happening. Okay. So, I mean, Jacob, I'd like to hear your thoughts on, I sign up as a new client with you this afternoon. What are the first things that you're going to say to me?
Yeah, great question. The first thing is you're listening to what you just said, and then apply. How does this apply to your business? What I do is kind of get a feel where you're at, but also a feel for you, because everybody shows up with different strengths. You're stronger in certain areas than another client might be. So there's certain things that I'll focus on, which are your systems, your pricing, your management, like your function, your roles, and how you first manage yourself, because that's a big reveal in how you'll usually manage others. I don't remember who it was. I think it was T. Harv Eker, but he has a statement, and I love it. How you do anything is how you do everything, because we're the same person personally as we are in business. It's just a different situation, but the same stress and the same reaction, to it. So it's really about a personal assessment, and then getting some ideas on where the business is where you'd like it to go, who you have in place to do these things. So it's a process for sure. It takes usually a couple of sessions to get that together before we can really start implementing a firm game plan that, takes you one little step at a time, and one thing you said, Simon, which is so true, is, we work ourselves into these roles of like, we just do because it's our baby. We don't have to get motivated to get up. Whether we get paid or not, we're going to do it because that's our commitment, and that's separates a follower from a leader. Somebody that doesn't have to have something or get something that day in order to step up and show up. And I think that, that's step one. Step two is, because you have 5 businesses now, but even thinking about it, how often we have to make decisions and how often we trust our intuition, because we have to. It's kind of like you're in the battlefield some days and you don't have time to think about it. You just have to respond and react. And we learn we trust ourselves pretty deeply. I think you'd agree with that one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that I think self-employed people typically don't, doubt their ability to execute. If we're confident in what we do as a business, okay, and I think that's Doug's confident in what he does as a content and a copywriter. He just is. He never doubts. He doesn't doubt his own ability. He's got a lot of other flaws, but they're, because he's, overweight and he's bald, and he doesn't. He can't come to grips with that. He doesn't. He thinks that we talk about that.
And he thinks all the weight's right here, right?
Yeah, he thinks it's in his guns, right? But it's not really, right? So, and I am drawn to people like that. I'm drawn to people that have absolute confidence in what they do, and it's not arrogance. I think there's a fine line between arrogance and absolute confidence, and I think I look at our client base. And our client base is drawn to us at the same way, because they want to deal with confident people. Any vendor that you use, right? Whether it's your attorney, whether it's your dry cleaner, you're drawn to that personality behind the counter, behind the phone. And I think that's why Doug and I work together, because we met on LinkedIn, and to this day we've never met. I don't even know if he exists. I mean, it could be some, he could be some holograph that's some big agency, has got these Doug Lawsons all around the world, and we're paying them to do our stuff. I don't care, but I trust him implicitly, and he's done an amazing job for us, with the work that he's done, and we're really excited about, Doug and my problem is finding enough time to execute everything we want to execute, right? That's all, and I think that's brings to your point as a, let's call it, high performance consultant or coach, is saying, how do you channel that focus? How do you channel, me as the business owner to say, okay, I'll help you execute. And because also to me is like going from like 6 figures to 7 figures is probably really not the motivation. That's not what gets me up in the day. And maybe that's wrong. I don't know. That's not the way I'm wired, because you get to a certain point in business where, you've got it's got enough internal momentum, and so you're sort of not worried about the day-to-day stuff. You're more worried about how do we fix the bigger problems, right? If that makes sense.
No, I agree for sure. One of the things that you said is, how to take it to that next phase or that next step. And it's not about the money. It becomes about creating exactly what the vision of it is or becomes, and then working our way out of it so that you can work on it. The way that you do it is you got to replace yourself a few times.
Right.
And, it's finding those people. And one of the benefits of now with the shrinkage of the workforce is if anybody listening to this that's looking for workers, keep at it. Stand above the crowd, just like we do in marketing, right? And if you don't know how to do that, direct message Doug after this program. But stand above the crowd and really like be heard or be seen, because those people that respond now are people that really desire to work.
Right.
So it's filtering out a lot of the stuff that, I had to deal with a few lower level income, wage salaries, and you don't always get, the ripe, you get sometimes an overripe apple, not the ripest apple, so it's a good opportunity as well.
I think the challenge we have is we'll pay someone to actually just show up to the interview,
right.
It's, I probably should have done that with my dating life. You got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince. Or
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah, a few toads too.
Oh, and I've kissed plenty. So both professionally and personally. Okay. So, but yeah, just getting people to come to the interview is the challenge. But I will say that the people that we have hired recently have been absolute superstars. And so we're doing all we can to retain them, to make sure that they're not burning out, that we're there for them, that we're paying them as much as we possibly can, that we're giving them time off, so yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest challenge for us is people right now. And I think a lot of businesses, that depend on people, like hospitality, travel, transportation, everyone is just tearing their hair out, and I think that's I think you see on LinkedIn, you don't see that. You don't see that's part of corporate America. You see feel-good stories. You see, as Doug said, snake oil charmers wanting to sell you stuff. You don't see the real story, and that's probably what's made me disconnect from LinkedIn a little bit. And not that I want to see. I don't want to watch a train crash. I think that I'm so busy with running our operation or our small business that I don't have a whole lot of time for singing Kumbaya in my underwear and holding hands with everyone online, right? I'd much rather visual. I get much more value and satisfaction about having a 1-hour conversation with you and paying you for that, right? Or paying Doug, for us to have a chat about content strategies, as opposed to, do I have time to just constantly spend 2 hours a day on LinkedIn responding to everyone's comments, or blah blah blah. And that might be completely selfish of me, or I may be missing out on huge opportunities. That may be true, but at some point you have to have a priority in life about, okay, I have a business to run, just like a lot of other people do, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. We do have to set aside what's important to us in our time, and like you said in business, and Doug mentioned it, how is it that you can just, if you have to drive, you drive, and one of the things that I know is a trait for all of us is that we discover something, we learn it, we implement it, and then we hand it off, because if I know it and you can't do it today, then I can jump in. Where a lot of people, and you see this with the snake oil charmers, is they don't learn how to do it. Oh, delegate everything, and just all I do is sit on the beach and wait for the money to come in. And if one person leaves, they don't know how to do crap. And then what happens is everything implodes, and 6 months later they're selling investments. Oh, now you have to invest. Remember I told you how to make $1 million 6 months ago? Yeah. Now you have to invest all this money and pay me to learn how to invest, and so, that's why it doesn't work. It works temporarily for those people that are wishers, and hopers. But the real people that are leaders and know it. And part of the reason I coach a higher level is, and Doug will attest to this, when you guys have an appointment, unless it's an emergency, you show up every time, right, Simon?
Right.
if Doug says, hey, I recommend you do this, and you say okay, I don't give a crap if it's 3 a.m. and you wake up and go, oh, I got an appointment at 7. You get up and get it done before 7.
Right.
You don't have an excuse or a story. And what happened with a lot of people as they're starting out, they let everything else get in the way of it. And that's what I love about a real leader is you show up, man. There's no, I have a plan B, but the plan B is for the business that I chose. I freaking got on an island and I burned every bridge possible. If the island sinks, man, I'm sinking with it,
right.
And that's the attitude that I think it takes. And it's part of the reason too, that I'm with Doug, is because he just shows up and, he's tells you like, hey, look, man, here's what you got to do. and then when I show up again and he said, hey, you kind of did it, but you didn't get it, man. It's like, here you go. And that's like, oh, okay. It's having somebody like that in the corner that doesn't hold back, because we don't give me a lot of fluff, get to the point,
right.
And I think that's part of the appeal about working with the leader. And, this, Simon, it's like, man, you don't have time for this. It's like, you got, once this fire's put out, there's a little spark over here I got to tend to. And then what we do is we figure out how to build those barriers around it so that the fires are minimized.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jacob, you've probably got a lot of experience in this with your coaching and stuff. Is that I know as a business owner, I have no time for hiring cheerleaders. Right? I don't want a cheerleader. I want someone to help me solve the problem. Okay, and we don't need to. This is speed dating. I'm already a sure thing. Okay, just help me solve the problem. We don't need to, I don't need to. You don't need to serenade me. I'm already in. So, yeah. And I think that and like I've got a guy in our industry that he's a very good coach, and so he and I have been chatting, and he actually said to me that was something that I hadn't thought about before. He said, "Look, put all the business stuff to the side. What is it that you want to do? Right? Mm-hmm. Just tell me what you want to do first, because we can solve all the other problems." And so it was. I think that was semi-profound for me. And I think most business owners that feel overwhelmed at the moment, what we want more than anything is our life back. Yeah. And so I think that, and I personally like my adult children to leave the house so I can, walk around in my underwear again.
Yeah, that's right. Or should I say this way, please?
Yeah. So, and so I think that's what we want. I think that really busy, self-employed people have zero work-life balance. And you can't tell a self-employed person, oh, it's really important, Doug or, Jacob, have some work-life balance. That's the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. Your name is on the door of this business. If it's screaming busy, what are you going to do? So, I'm sorry, Mr. Client, I need work-life balance. My guru Bob or guru Doug or guru Jacob said work-life balance, sit in my underwear, old hands, kumbaya, blah, 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 right? And then all of a sudden, shit hits the fan, right? Well, the client doesn't care about your work-life balance. The client needs you to solve their problem, right? And so I don't buy that at all, right? Get your time back, sit on a beach, go to yoga. What the fuck? When have I got time to go and do yoga, right? Like, I would be more than happy to be sitting in a room with, cute women in yoga pants, doing something called a downward dog, whatever that is. But I haven't got time for that. Right?
So
someone find me the time, I'll happily go do yoga, right? Or, sing kumbaya. I don't care. But I think the biggest issue we have to solve is, as entrepreneurs and as self-employed people that have come through a pandemic, is how do we find control? How do we get our life back? And that requires, as you said, Doug, Jacob, rather, do you have the system and the process and the people in place? Yeah. I think we actually have those sort of key things pretty well handled, but the volume of work is still, we're drowning in, right? And so I think the challenge is, and when I consulted, the thing that we would talk about is how do you scale your business? So a lot of people that are husband and wives that are self-employed, and they might make, whatever it is they make. Well, and this might upset or offend a lot of people. If you're self-employed and you make a couple of $100,000, right, as a self-employed person, that's not a business. That's a hobby. Okay. You need to be able to scale that to $1 million and then $2 million, because then you can exit. You can't exit a $200,000 business. You are chained, handcuffed to that thing for the rest of your life until you work with someone like you, Jacob, and work on solutions how you get out of it. I'm sorry, you might as well work for the man. You might as well go back to corporate, make the same money, have benefits, have holidays, turn your phone off at 5 p.m. on Friday night and go and have, and then you can do kumbaya and your hot yoga with, nice people.
Or with yoga pants that are not, I won't go there.
Well, yeah, never mind.
This is bringing up a great point both of you are talking about, is the mindset of an entrepreneur. Now, I don't call myself an entrepreneur. I find the word too trendy. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I like the word you use, Simon, which is self-employed, right? You work for yourself. And whether you call yourself an entrepreneur or not, that's on you. But the one thing I've noticed about self-employed people is that even if they find extra time in their schedule, they're going to fill it with more, strategy, more, okay, I've got all this time. I really don't know what to do with myself. Why don't I just start something new? That's the true sign of a self-employed person. Is that you can send them to Puerto Rico for 2 weeks. They'll come back with a new business. Yeah. Guaranteed. I've never really met a true self-employed person that enjoys taking time off for the sake of it. Next week we're going to talk to a guy named Daniel. He's the same way. He went away to California or something, and he's texting the whole time. And his wife and kids are screaming at him to put down the phone. He's like, no, my business doesn't stop when we take time off. And I think that's one of the strategies that Jacob really tries to emphasize with his clients is you have to find a way to make your business allow you to take time off. Am I right, Jacob?
Yeah, you do. We have to replace ourselves and in steps. So, if you find a way to free up 4 hours, an entrepreneur or a self-employed person is not going to take 4 hours off. Getting them to take 2 hours off would be an accomplishment, because how many things do we have to either finish up that we have open, or there's things that we have been meaning to get to, but the topics of the day don't allow us to get to them in our business. And so any time off is like an opportunity to complete something or get to something that we've been looking to get to. And the way you get away from it, from having that cycle repeat itself, because that's the hamster wheel we get into as self-employed people sometimes, even with success. And like Simon said, it's not about the money after a certain point. It's about having this business generate that money, but how can it do it without me having to be there jumping in every day? Because you know how it is, man. You're in the office. If the phone rings more than 3 times, Simon, what do?
Yeah, I'm going to be jumping up again.
Jump on it, man. Yeah, you answer the phone, because that's what we do. We're action takers. We don't think about it.
Right.
And so it's getting to a point where I can, if it's, let's say that 200 grand number, how can I generate that consistently without me having to do anything in that business except go in, see how everything's going. Here's a new idea. How can we implement it with the team? I think that if I can get to that point, then I have something that I'm truly, truly enjoying and is scaled to the point where I can either keep it and let it run that way without me tending to it, or I can set it up for what I intended to in the end, which is either selling it or handing it off to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I mean, I think if you look at all three of us, we're trading hours for dollars. Okay, Whether we like it or not, we are.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, Doug sells, you know, what he sells, you sell what you sell, and I do what I do. But it's essentially we're trading ours for dollars. And I think what keeps me awake at night is how do we scale that? And then how do we put it on autopilot where we don't really have to be there every day, right? And the challenge for self-employed people is, but because we care deeply about the experience, you know, the customer experience and the clients that we've developed relationships with, that's the hard part to let go. And I laugh about that holiday analogy. I hate holidays, right? I think they're a waste of time, right? Like if I went on holiday, and I've taken my family on plenty of holidays, and I've had a lot of fun. But I'm not the guy to go sit on a beach. I'm thinking to the kids, let's go rent jet skis, let's go parasailing, let's go do a cooking class together. I want the whole day packed. I'm not sitting on a beach or on a deck chair. I mean, I could do it for 2 hours until I was drunk enough, and then to say, oh, let's go jet skiing now, right? But you know what I mean? I think that's
I'm with you.
Because our minds go, oh, I'd meet someone like you at the bar, and we start brainstorming about stuff. When you'd have your business, I'd have my business. I think, oh, this is great. This is the best holiday on earth. I met a great person, and we started talking, and we're gonna, that sort of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about travel too, because travel, you're always moving. I say to I remember saying to my son one day, when we lived in Singapore, it was Singapore. We'd go home to Michigan every year for my wife's family, right? And I never used to travel with the four. I made a decision years ago that we would never travel as a family. Okay, so I said to my wife back then, we're never going to travel the four of us together. She said, why? Are you worried about the plane crashing? I said, no, because it's just a pain in the ass, right? And I've traveled so much on my own that I do my own thing. She said, fine. So I said, you choose which child you want to take, and I'll choose which child I want, right? So she chose our daughter, and I got the son. And so every year we would go on our separate ways, and I would send them on their way. And I said to my wife, just tell me what day you need me back in Michigan, and we'll be there plus or minus a day. But my son and I would take all these detours. We'd go to Japan or Europe, or she'd call us, where are you? I said, never mind. We got lost. We got sidetracked. And I loved it. I loved that part about travel because it's unpredictable. Okay. Yeah. And I think when you work for yourself, everything is just, it's a real grind. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of our business. I love it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. But I think that the unpredictability is what what self-employed people want, because it's fun and it's motivating. And I think that the things that are keeping me awake right now is what I talked about with Doug before, about stuff that's the real sharp end of the stick that we can do, that no one else can do. And that's where I think people with your skills, Jacob, bring that to the surface of those people to say, how do you leverage that what you do really well, how do you leverage that to take you to the next level, right?
Yeah, well, I learned this, but I think that one place to start is understanding our brand. I just learned this from somebody else, but and knowing what we desire our brand to not just stand for, but how do we desire our brand to feel with our customers, and how do we desire our brand to be felt or known for when people see it, and then really delving into that and getting connected to that message, and then sharing that with your team. And when you can get your team to function like this is the experience each customer has to have without exception. I'm Mr. Nice Guy, but I can be Mr. Asshole too. And if you want to turn me into that, don't live up to this standard. When you can get people to live up to that standard and you create that community you talked about, Simon, that's when you get the right people in the right positions. That's when you can start letting go easier because everybody's in alignment. Right. And I mean, not just your employees. I mean, like getting Doug on board because he's part of your team.
Right.
Getting your coach on board because he's part of your team and saying, look, this is what my brand stands for. This is the feeling that I choose to have people have. And this is the experience we're going to have as a team. So because your brand can't just be for your customers, you got to live it. And when we connect to that piece, I think it's really good.
I think that that's also the challenge, because a lot of self-employed people say, I don't really have a brand.
Right.
Brand to me, when we first started that's all corporate bullshit. We don't have a brand. We're a transportation business. People pay us to take them to the airport, or we're a security organization, or we did. But it probably wasn't until the last 12 months of re-engaging with LinkedIn and working with guys like Doug and others that I actually, the light went off in my whiskey-infused brain that said, yeah, we do have a brand, right? Whether I like it or not, we have 5 years or 6 years of customers experiencing something and what we stand for. And I'll give you an example. Look, and I hope this doesn't come across as I'm bragging, but yesterday our shuttle service ran hopelessly late. Okay, one of the shuttles we were running just fell behind. Our customer service people added some more people at the last minute, and it threw the whole thing into chaos. Right, and we rarely make mistakes like this, but it was. And so I was watching all this unfold, and I'm screaming at everybody saying, how did this happen? We have a customer service team on board. We have dispatchers. We have, people that know what they're doing. And the whole thing is just turned to shit. And so there's 4 people that are impacted. So I'm texting these 4 people as the owner, and I sent them all a $10 Starbucks card, saying, I'm really sorry this has happened. Coffee's on me, and some of them started responding. Thanks for acknowledging it. Thanks. One guy got really pissed off and started screaming at the driver and cancelled, right? Said, no, I'm not going with you. And so then, I'm texting him, and then I sent a black card to take him to the airport. He's a $45 shuttle customer. We sent a $200 card to go pick him up, take him to the airport. And he said, that's great customer service. Thank you. But that's because that's our brand, Jacob. Like, we don't fail, right? We don't let you down. We're absolutely committed to the customer experience. Now, I know our competitor could have never done that because he doesn't have the other side of the business that we have. Or would have he taken the time to send everybody quickly a $10 Starbucks card, so here's coffee, right? Those little things, and I'm pushing our own barrel about the missing 10%. That's what we do. And that's what we stand for, and that's our brand, right?
Well, and that, it resonates because you live up to that standard that we uphold, and then you hold everybody to that standard, including the customer. Right. Because you could have went the direction that half of the people would go, owners. They'd say, oh, the expense isn't worth it, or I can't afford that. And what we can't do is we can't afford to have one person, bash us for the next 30 days, because the amount of money that we'd lose that we don't even realize would far exceed anything you could have done. You could have sent them a Ferrari to drive for a week and probably, still made money in the long run because of what you could lose. But I think living up to that standard is really important. And then learning how to share that with people. Like Doug has a brand, just look at his banner. I think your brand shouts out loudly with your top 3 words, Doug, at the top, no BS, man. It's like, here it is. But you also know what you get with them. And those people that are fortunate enough and wise enough and such great leaders and amazing people that hire them, right, Simon?
Yeah, so, Doug, I shouldn't say this. Doug, close your ears. Actually, he can't hear me. Turn your translation off, right?
Yeah.
Doug doesn't charge enough. Doug doesn't charge enough, Jacob. You need to teach him how to charge more. Right?
We've had that conversation.
I think I charge enough. I don't know.
He's done a much better job. We've had a couple conversations, Doug, around time and what you charge as well, I think, over the time. And I found him the same way you did, Simon. I saw his stuff on LinkedIn and go, wow, man, this is really good. I need to connect with this person. And I don't know how long it was. I think when you did that video, I finally realized why you're so good with words. I think it's the gift behind the, the blessing behind what would be perceived as a curse, right?
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I tell Simon this all the time, and I think I've told you this as well. And he brought this up earlier in the conversation. I am very confident in my ability to put words together, right? That's what I'm good at. I am a terrible businessman. So you're hiring me to fix your business. You're hiring the wrong guy, because I don't even know how to balance a budget. But I can write a really good email campaign for you. I can put together a LinkedIn strategy that gets you $90,000 contract like it does with other clients. But if you're asking me to fix my business, yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So, it's hard to find out what you're worth, right? Because if you put the price up here, for example, I don't know, a $6,000 retainer, Simon, you would have never taken it. I don't think. That's too high, right? So I've constantly have to play what's too low, what's too high, and it goes like that. As opposed to, a shuttle service. The market has already told you the price, right? It's either $50, $49, $45, or $43, and you just plug it in. Now, if you charge $100 for your shuttle, you're going to lose business, right? Because the market is sort of in range. And the issue, what I think freelancer is that we don't know each other's prices. I have no idea what James charges. James, my competitor who we've had on the show, I have no idea what he charges for his work. I don't even want to act. I don't know how much Camille Trent charges. So we kind of have to play what, scenarios in our heads. So it would be nice to know what everybody charges so we can charge the right price, if that makes sense.
Yeah, see,
you're going to get some feedback from me too. Go ahead, Simon. Sorry.
Well, no, sorry to interrupt, but I think I get what you say in the sense that, okay, in transportation, say in our shuttle business, it's a commodity. It's very price sensitive, as Doug knows. And, he built a campaign around it that did extremely well. But the offer was also very good, because they were getting, essentially 50% off. And so why wouldn't it get traction? But then our car service, our black car service, we're the most expensive by a mile. Okay? And we make no apologies for that, because we understand the market that we want. Okay. And then the security stuff that we do, it doesn't have a price. Okay. We solve the problem. And so we get brought in to fix a problem. And the people that we're dealing with at that level, then price is not the issue. And so I would say to you both as consultants, if I was consulting to both of you, to say, yes, you have to generate a baseline amount of revenue, to pay your bills and to keep everyone happy. And you'll do things for a price point. But you also need to find that 10% of customers that are completely price indifferent, that you are solving the problem, that you are able to get a percentage of revenue from the result. See, Doug, and I shouldn't be saying this to you, but the engagement you have to have with us going forward is saying, yes, you have a retainer, and yes, I am somewhat driven by what that number should be, okay? But there's also got to be an upside for the Doug Lawson agency to say, if you grow our business, then you should share in the profit. And that makes the difference to you from your bottom line. Because, like same with Jacob, sounds like I should be hiring Jacob. And I will have a tolerance of what I can afford and what I can't. But I'll absolutely be open to say, if Jacob can take us from this level to that level, I'll absolutely pay him a percentage. Because why wouldn't I? It's the upside. And that's what we've got to find out. We've got to say, how do we generate enough cash or revenue to keep everyone happy, the lights going, the business turning? But what's the incremental difference I can have because because CEOs and owners and self-employed people, they want you to have skin in the game. If you're going to work with me, like I don't get sticker shock on anything now. I've been around too long and worked in corporate for too long, and I deal with so many people that are completely, you know, in a different realm financially, that they don't get sticker shock. You know, that's just a number to them. But so, and I think all of us have the same problem. We all have probably a bigger issue with our own price point than the customer has, in a lot of ways. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I think, Doug, a couple of things that you pointed out. One is I would never be concerned what anybody that does what I do charges, because you have to cover all your expenses. You have to pay for your taxes. You have to pay yourself. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to be a successful business. So it doesn't matter what anybody else charges. What are my expenses? What is my value that I put on myself? And that's where I think a lot of entrepreneurs on a smaller game miss a beat, because we don't put the value on ourselves and we charge less, or we charge what other people are charging because that's what they charge. And it's a recipe for monotony, you know, staying at a certain level, or it's a recipe for failure. Because if you don't, you know, like you said, one thing about, on a funny side, you don't know how to budget. A self-employed person, you either raise your prices or you get a few more clients. That's how you fix a budget. So
That's exactly right. I've never had to figure out my budget because, you know, my wife would say, hey, you know, we're X number. I will go, okay, be right back. And then in a couple of days, here's a new client. Okay, moving on, you know, which is a terrible way to live. And I apologize to her for the last, you know, 10, 12 years. But that's how I look at budget. If I'm running short, I say, be right back. And I go get another client to make up the deficit, and I keep just plugging away. That's a horrible business model.
That's a bad recipe, by the way. Pricing it properly, you figure out what everything costs, you take your average, and each person has to pay that, because if you rely on one client to pay for something and that client's gone, you're scrambling. Where if they're only paying 1/10 or 1/20th, it's not that big. You can handle that until you find the next one. So yeah, there's a strategy to pricing for sure, but I think that it's really important, you know, to focus on these areas and really understand that, you know, there's a lot of pieces to this, but, you know, bottom line, it's about, you know, figuring out the right systems and processes for us to really kind of take this to a level, and then learning how to delegate properly, and not hiring people that we like necessarily. You know, I don't dislike my team, but I don't have to like you in order to hire you. I can learn to like you.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think I think, you know, your job as a boss or as a leader is not to become the employee's best friend, right? You know, a lot of people that are self-employed want to be, you know, loved by everybody. But I think what the employees want more than anything is to be treated fairly and with respect, okay? And that you'll be consistent in treating them and the person beside them. You're not going to play favorites. And, you know, sure, I like some of our team more than others, right? But I think I've learned now after 5 or 6 years of doing this that I hope I'm consistent with, you know, I mean, I will scream at anybody, you know, no matter who they are or how long they've been with us. And I don't need to scream, but, you know, I'll call them out on if we make a mistake. And no one's immune to that. And I think our guys at least know that, you know, they just want consistency more than anything, I think.
Yeah. Well, they want to be part of something. So that's where it comes back to that. Like, you know, if you can get this whole team to represent the feeling and the experience that you want everyone to experience, and then you include that with your team, that's where you get loyalty, longevity, and like really, really good results. Because, you know, if people just that's when the logos and the tagline will make sense after that's in place.
Right. That's very true.
But it's usually the other way around. People get the logo and the tagline first and go, "Here's my brand," and it's like, no, it ain't.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, gentlemen, we're wrapping up to the bottom of the hour. This was a great shot. I've actually learned a lot. I think when we upload this and people watch that, for people who are trying to figure out their own self-employed journey, this is easily a $20,000 podcast. Easily. You just got to listen, rewatch it again and again, and you'll get the interesting points from Simon and Jacob. And unfortunately for myself as well, and you can kind of figure out how to move forward. And a lot of this, I really believe, is having the right mindset. And don't get it twisted. People throw out mindset like it's a magical formula. No, it's about getting yourself to a point where it's your name on the door. You no longer need to be motivated to wake up in the morning. You just do it. It's a call. It's your duty. And you have a duty of care. As Simon loves to say, to your employees, to yourself, and to your family, that motivation is not needed to be successful. That's what I think mindset means. Do you agree with me, Simon?
Well, yeah, I do, but I think that the more important thing I want to end with, Jacob, is how are we going to get these kids out of our house, Jacob? Like he loves his kids already because they're little, but I want to know from a wise guy like you. I'll pay you heavily. Teach me how do we get them to leave, right? Because they just moved in. My daughter just moved in, and I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing here? She said, "Oh, Mum left to go back to Michigan," right? And so I'm here. So I've got a son who wakes up at 2 p.m. every day. I've got a daughter and a cat now. I don't know where the cat came from. It just appeared. So please help me solve this life problem, Jacob.
I've had that experience. I have 36 and 38-year-old. So
you're living in your house?
No.
Oh,
absolutely no. They left early. I said, "Here's what you do. You got to pay rent. Here's your list of duties. If they're not done, your rent increases. And here's your what are they, curfew, right? Because I don't want you can't come in at 2 or 3 in the morning and wake me up, man. I have a business to run. So you're in by 11 o'clock. The doors get locked, and the inside lock gets locked. Have a good night." And that took about my oldest daughter about 3 months max, and she was like, "I got to move out on my own," and I'm like, "I'll help." and my youngest, I drove to Florida at 18, down to Disney World to work for the summer, and she never came back. So she lives about an hour away now, but we have a great relationship as well.
See, my kids are like homing pigeons. They're like right. Ladies. Right. You're just going to keep it forever. It's like, no, I can't fix this. This is, if I said to my son, "You have to pay rent," he would literally look at you like you had lost the plot. He would just think, "You're on drugs or something."
I gave him back the money when they moved. But they did pay. My daughter, I remember when she first got her car, I said, "As soon as you get a job to pay for gas and you pay for insurance, you can drive the car." And the car sat for 6 months because she thought, he'll cave in. No, I just stood firm. And in the long run, they appreciate it. During that time, I was the worst parent you could ever imagine, right?
Okay, well, you and I are going to have a separate conversation on that.
Yeah, we should, for sure. That would be a whole... I just got live, so maybe we do that. And
we should do that.
Comedy show.
Yeah, Doug, pay attention. This is your life in 10 years' time.
Oh, my goodness. All right, gentlemen, I've got to go. I actually have work to do. Cheers to both of you. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks so much, man. Appreciate Simon. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. Good to see you.
Thanks.
All right, take it easy. All right, fuck off.
Put that on the end and the bleeper. Put that on the bleeper.